Okay, let's unpack this. Seriously, one of the best parts of this job is getting the source material you, our listener, send in and just diving deep into something new. Today, you've pointed us towards the incredible, vibrant world of Mexican food.
And looking at this material you've provided, it jumps right out, doesn't it? This is far more than just, the usual image of tacos and guacamole.
Way more.
It's a cuisine with such profound history and complexity.
Absolutely. Your sources highlight this depth straight away. I mean, they mentioned its recognition by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity.
Right.
That's not just about tasty food, is it? It acknowledges the deep cultural roots, the knowledge, the traditions, all woven into the food itself.
Exactly. It signifies that every meal connects back to generations of history, farming practices, community rituals. It's really a living heritage.
Yeah, a living heritage. I like that. So our mission here, guided purely by the sources you've shared, is to explore that rich tapestry. We're going to journey through its ancient origins, uncover the essential ingredients that form its palate, map out the incredible regional diversity across Mexico, understand its deep cultural significance, and see how it's evolving today.
Think of us as navigating this flavorful landscape right alongside you, pointing out the key landmarks the sources reveal.
Perfect.
Okay.
So let's start right at the beginning. Tracing the historical roots. Your source takes us back thousands of years.
Yeah, way back to the indigenous civilizations of Mesoamerica. The Maya, the Aztecs.
And this is where the absolute foundation was laid, right?
Totally. These cultures cultivated the ingredients that are still completely central to Mexican cooking today.
And the king of those, without a doubt, according to the sources, is corn, maíz.
Yes. And the source explains its importance wasn't just nutritional, it was deeply spiritual.
Right.
Central to their whole worldview, their cosmology.
Wow.
Right? It wasn't just food, it was life. And crucially, they developed this process called nixtamalization.
Nixtamalization. Okay, what is that exactly?
The source describes it as soaking and cooking the corn in an alkaline solution, usually with lime. And this isn't just boiling, it's chemical transformation. It makes nutrients like niacin available, which is huge nutritionally, but maybe even more importantly for the kitchen, it softens the kernels so they can be ground into masa.
Masa. Okay, that's the foundational dough, right?
Sure.
So this ancient technique is what makes possible so many of those iconic dishes we know.
Precisely. Tortillas, tamales, soaks, gorditas. The source highlights that these core foods just wouldn't exist as we know them without nixtamalization.
Yeah.
It's fundamental.
Incredible. Just incredible. So alongside corn, what other staples define this pre-Hispanic diet based on the sources?
Well, you had beans, chili peppers, squash, avocados, tomatoes. Cacao was key, too.
And protein.
Protein came from domesticated turkeys, various game animals, fish, and yes, even insects were an important part of the diet according to the material.
Right. Which, as your source points out later, are still enjoyed in some regions today. Okay, so now, fast forward. 16th century.
Yep. The arrival of the Spanish, the Columbian exchange, as your sources call it, this fundamentally changed the culinary landscape.
Changed how? Did it just wipe out the old ways?
No, and that's what's fascinating here, as the sources reveal. It wasn't a simple replacement, it was a fusion.
Yeah.
Old world traditions and ingredients came in, and they blended with the established indigenous pantry, created something entirely new and incredibly complex.
Bringing in ingredients that now feel so
Yes.
Mexican, right?
Yeah.
Like pigs, cattle, chickens, sheep, goats, new protein sources.
Exactly, and things like dairy, which gave rise to cheeses, grains like wheat and rice, sugar, olive oil.
Onions, garlic.
Yes, those key aromatics, plus a whole host of new herbs and spices. It was this collision of two culinary worlds that really birthed modern Mexican cuisine as we know it.
So emerging from that really rich historical blend, we get the essential palate, the core ingredients defining the cuisine today, according to these sources.
And we have to start, again, with maize. Corn.
Still king.
Absolutely. Your source reiterates its centrality, whether it's eaten fresh like elotes,
Oh, yeah, street corn.
or transformed into masa for tortillas and tamales, or used dried in hearty soups like pozole. Corn is just everywhere. It's inescapable.
Okay, and then chili peppers. Chiles. The source calls them the soul of the cuisine. But it's not just about heat, is it?
Not at all, no. The sources really emphasize that chiles offer this huge spectrum of flavors. You get smoky, fruity, earthy, bright. It all depends on the type and how it's prepared.
Like the difference between a mild poblano for stuffing versus a fiery habanero.
Exactly. And then you have the dried chiles like anchos, guajillos, pasillas. Those are fundamental building blocks for those deep, complex sauces like moles.
Great moles. We'll get to those.
Yeah.
What else is on this essential list?
Beans, frijoles, highlighted as a vital protein and just a constant companion to corn. Black beans, pinto beans, bayo beans, used in countless ways. Side dishes, fillings, soup bases.
Versatile. And tomatoes and tomatillos.
They bring that essential acidity and sweetness. Tomatoes are familiar, in salsas and stews. But the source points out the unique tart, almost citrusy flavor of tomatillos.
Ah, for the green salsas. Salsa verde.
Precisely. That's their starring role.
Okay. Avocados. Aguacates. Beloved, right?
Oh, yeah. For that creamy richness, guacamole is obviously the most famous use, but just sliced onto a dish, they add so much texture and flavor.
Definitely. What about herbs and spices?
For aromatics, your material mentions cilantro, Mexican oregano, which is different from Mediterranean oregano, by the way.
Good point.
Cumin, epazote, which the source notes is often cooked with beans, supposedly helps with digestion, but definitely adds flavor. And even cinnamon, used in desserts, but also some savory dishes.
Interesting. And cacao.
Can't forget cacao. Historically vital for Aztec and Maya ceremonial drinks, and it still features in traditional beverages and famously adds that unique depth to certain molds.
And agave.
Yep. The source mentions agave's versatility for sweeteners like agave nectar, and of course, as the base for those iconic spirits, tequila and mezcal.
It's amazing, isn't it, how these, relatively few core ingredients, when combined with all that history and technique, create such incredibly complex flavors.
It really is. It's like a fundamental flavor language has developed.
Yeah, exactly. But Mexico isn't just one single culinary identity, is it? Your source makes that incredibly clear when it gets into regional variations.
Absolutely not. Mexico's geography is so diverse. Mountains, coasts, deserts, tropics, plus its history. It's all led to these distinct culinary regions, each with its own ingredients, techniques, signature dishes.
Like different dialects of that flavor language we mentioned.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
So let's dive into some of the key examples your sources highlight, starting with Oaxaca, often called the land of seven moles.
That name alone tells you something big. Oaxaca is justly famous for its incredibly complex moles.
More than just chocolate sauce, right?
Oh, way more. These are deep, layered sauces, often made with dozens of ingredients, different chiles, spices, nuts, seeds, sometimes fruit, sometimes chocolate. Just amazing depth.
Wow. What else does the source mention for Oaxaca?
Beyond moles, it points to unique things like quesillo, the Oaxacan string cheese, the layudas.
What are those again?
Giant, crispy corn tortillas, often served flat with toppings, beans, cheese, meat, almost like a huge open-faced tostada or a Mexican pizza, some say.
Okay.
And yes, the source mentions the toasted grasshoppers, chapulines, a local delicacy, crunchy and savory.
Adventurous. Okay, moving east to the Yucatan Peninsula. Strong Mayan and Caribbean vibes here.
Definitely. The sources highlight ingredients like achiote. That gives the distinctive earthy flavor and that vibrant red-orange color.
You see that in cochinita pibil.
Exactly. Slow-roasted pork marinated in achiote and sour orange. That citrus, especially sour oranges, is fundamental there. And they definitely embrace the heat of habanero peppers.
What other dishes are signature Yucatan, according to the sources?
Sopa de lima, that refreshing lime soup, often with turkey or chicken, and pak chuk, which is citrus-marinated grilled pork. Very distinct flavors.
It sounds incredible. Okay, Puebla, another state famous for its moles.
Very famous. Home to mole poblano, which, as the source notes, is sometimes considered the national dish of Mexico. Rich, complex, often contains chocolate.
And it also gives us that visually stunning, patriotic dish.
Chiles en nogada, right? The source describes them beautifully. Poblano peppers stuffed with this flavorful picadillo, a mix of meat, fruit, and spices.
Okay.
Then topped with a creamy walnut sauce, the nogada, and sprinkled with pomegranate seeds and parsley. Green, white, and red.
The colors of the flag. Amazing.
Truly a celebration dish.
Let's head west now to Jalisco, known for tequila and mariachi. But what about the food?
Hearty, flavorful dishes here, according to your material, like birria.
Oh, I've heard of that. A spicy stew.
Yes, traditionally goat or lamb, slow-cooked in a rich chili broth, though beef is common now too. Also pozole, that comforting hominy soup, often with pork or chicken, served with lots of garnishes.
And those sandwiches. The drowned ones.
Tortas ahogadas, literally drowned sandwiches, usually pork-filled rolls, completely submerged in a spicy tomato chili sauce. Messy, but delicious. a Guadalajara specialty.
Sounds intense. Okay, Baja California, coastal, so
Yeah.
seafood focus.
Big time. It's credited as the origin of the modern fish taco as we know it, lots of fresh seafood preparations, and the source mentions influences from Mediterranean and even Asian cooking, reflecting its location and trade history.
Interesting mix. Up north now, northern Mexico, norteño cuisine, ranching country.
Exactly. So much more emphasis on beef here. Your sources mention dishes like carne asada grilled steak, often for tacos, and machaca, which is dried, shredded beef, often scrambled with eggs.
And a key difference here mentioned in the sources, tortillas.
Yes. Flour tortillas are much more common in the north compared to the corn tortillas that dominate most other regions. That's a big regional marker.
Good to know. And finally, central Mexico, including Mexico City, described as a culinary melting pot.
Absolutely. It's the epicenter of street food, the antojitos, those little whims or snacks.
Like what?
Oh, everything. Tacos al pastor, marinated pork cooked on a vertical spit, like shawarma. Quesadillas made with fresh masa. Pambazos, which are sandwiches dipped in guajillo sauce and then fried. Tlacoyos, these oval-shaped masa patties stuffed with beans or cheese. The sheer variety is just astounding.
Wow. What the sources really show us through these regions is that Mexico's geography isn't just like a backdrop. It's an active character shaping these distinct culinary identities.
It really is. It perfectly reflects local resources, the climate, the history of migrations, cultural practices adapting to the specific environment. It's all there in the food.
And speaking of culture, your source material makes it incredibly clear that Mexican food is far, far more than just sustenance.
Oh, absolutely. It's deeply woven into the fabric of life, fundamentally tied to family, community, religion, celebration.
Meals aren't usually solitary things.
Rarely, they're communal events. Bringing people together is key.
And the sources mention that many traditional dishes are incredibly labor-intensive, making tamales, for example.
Right. And that's not just about complex recipes. It's seen as an expression of care, of love. It's a way of preserving and passing down heritage, often with multiple generations working together in the kitchen.
That's beautiful. And holidays have specific iconic foods associated with them.
Definitely. For Day of the Dead, Dia de Muertos, the sources mention pan de muerto, the bread of the dead, often sweet and anise flavored, and the tradition of placing the departed's favorite foods and drinks on the ofrendas, the altars.
Way to welcome them back.
Exactly. And Christmas brings things like tamales, a huge undertaking, often done communally, and punch, that warm spiced fruit punch, and sometimes bacalao, salt cod, prepared in various ways.
So these aren't just meals, they're rituals. They reinforce cultural identity, belonging.
Precisely. Food becomes this really powerful tool for cultural expression and continuity.
Now, this incredibly rich heritage hasn't just stayed within Mexico's borders, has it? Your source touches on its global journey.
That's right. And initially, as the cuisine spread, particularly north into the U.S., it was often simplified. This gave rise to what became known as Tex-Mex.
Which includes things like hard-shell tacos, big burritos stuffed with rice and beans, nachos loaded with cheese.
Exactly. Delicious in their own right, many would say, but often quite different from traditional Mexican regional cooking.
But thankfully, the sources note that things are changing. There's a growing global appreciation now for more authentic regional Mexican food.
Yes, definitely. There's much more awareness and interest in the diversity we've been talking about.
And contemporary Mexican cuisine itself, it's not stuck in the past, is it? The sources say it's dynamic.
Incredibly dynamic. You have chefs, both in Mexico and internationally, who are revisiting traditional recipes but maybe applying modern techniques. There's a huge emphasis now on quality, local, seasonal ingredients.
The material you sent also highlights this renewed interest in, like, pre-Hispanic ingredients and ancestral methods.
Yes. Bringing back older grains, techniques like nixtamalization being explored more deeply, indigenous herbs. It's happening alongside innovative fusions, too, and a growing focus on sustainability, farm-to-table approaches.
So it's a cuisine that clearly respects its deep roots while constantly looking forward.
Exactly, which keeps it vibrant and really relevant on the global stage.
Okay, so for you, the listener, wanting to experience this authentic Mexican food described in the sources, what's the advice?
Well, if you're lucky enough to be in Mexico, the sources say definitely explore local markets, mercados. Seek out street food, but maybe from trusted, busy vendors. Look for traditional fondas.
What are fondas again?
Those small, often family-run eateries. Simple, home-style cooking, usually very regional and authentic. And cooking classes are mentioned as a great way to connect more deeply.
Good idea. And internationally, if you're not in Mexico.
Look for restaurants that show a commitment to authenticity. Maybe they make their tortillas in-house. That's often a good sign. Or they source quality ingredients, maybe highlight dishes from specific regions rather than just offering a generic Mexican menu.
Got it. Wow. Okay, what a journey through the material you shared with us. I mean, from ancient corn cultivation and the absolute genius of nixtamalization, through those foundational ingredients, the astonishing regional diversity, all the way to its deep cultural meaning and its dynamic global evolution today.
Yeah, it's abundantly clear this cuisine is anything but static or, simple. It's a really complex, layered story told through flavor.
Which kind of raises an important question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Based on all this, how does a cuisine that's so deeply rooted in tradition manage to be so incredibly adaptive and innovative around the world?
Yeah, and how does it do that while still somehow maintaining its core identity?
And what does that ongoing adaptation, that global journey, mean for preserving that rich cultural heritage that the sources talk so much about?
Good questions.
So what does this all mean for you? Here's a final thought to consider, drawing from these themes. Every time you taste a dish like mole, or even just bite into a simple tortilla made from nixtamalized corn, you're not just eating. You're experiencing quite literally thousands of years of history, migration, adaptation, and cultural identity held within that food. What stories are held in the food on your plate?
There's clearly so much more to explore based on the incredible sources you provided today.
Definitely. Dive in.